All right, let's dive into this. TYT is losing their minds over Trump's legal battle on birthright citizenship. But is it really as outrageous as they claim? Well, let's find out.
I've never seen a lawyer in any court, let alone the Supreme Court, basically say, yeah, my case sucks. Like, he literally said his case is questionable. The fact that the conservative justices are even entertaining this.
Notice how they mock the case before even addressing the constitutional argument. This is how you know that they're not really interested in the real debate. They're just pushing the narrative.
It's basically like the Alitos and the Clarence Thomases going, Donald Trump, you can come up with the dumbest thing in the world. And we'll go, maybe we'll create utter mayhem and no one will know who's an American citizen anymore because they're all born here.
President Trump's battle to end birthright citizenship taking center stage at the Supreme Court today.
You claim that there is absolutely no constitutional way to stop, put this aside, to stop a president from an unconstitutional act, a clearly, indisputably unconstitutional act.
I disagree with that.
The Supreme Court heard oral arguments today in a case about the enforcement of President Trump's order to ban.
They keep throwing around indisputable, yet here we are at the Supreme Court. If it were so indisputable, it wouldn't even be heard at this level. I mean, this is exactly why judicial review exists in the first place.
Ban birthright citizenship. The main question is not birthright citizenship itself, but rather whether lower courts overstepped their authority by blocking that order on a nationwide basis. Before we get to the oral arguments, we're going to hear from Donald Trump, who went on one of his classic Truth Social rants earlier this morning. But first, Cenk, I know you have a lot of thoughts on birthright citizenship. It was in part one of the reasons it helped inspire your candidacy. What do you make of this case and how do you think the Supreme Court will rule?
Yeah, so there's three different issues here. So number one is birthright citizenship, which should be inarguable. By the way, a little topsy-turvy there, Jordan. So I'm a naturalized citizen. So I believe that all birthright citizenship should be taken away. So I'm one of the few citizens left. No, seriously. But I do have nephews who have birthright citizenship, etc. Because that's how we get citizenship. It's you're born here. That's usually the number one way. Anyways, but there's also the issue of these injunctions from the lower courts. That sounds wonky, but no, it's really important, which gets to the third and maybe most important issue, which was Amy Coney Barrett grilling the Trump administration on whether they're gonna listen to court orders at all. And then there was one very clear answer to that, and then one disastrous answer to that. So there's a lot to get to here and sort out. So Jordan, take it away and then we'll.
If you want to learn how to edit really well from professional Hollywood editors, we're going to show you the stuff that nobody else is teaching.
Analyze.
Let's get to that rant from Donald Trump.
Paul, honestly, Trump has a point here. No other country allows foreign nationals to manipulate birthright citizenship like the US does. I mean, why shouldn't we at least revisit this outdated interpretation?
He posted this on Truth Social. Birthright citizenship was not meant for people taking vacations to become permanent citizens of the United States of America and bringing their families with them. All the time laughing at the quote suckers that we are. The United States of America is the only country in the world that does this. For what reason? Nobody knows. But the drug cartels love it. We are, for the sake of being politically correct, a stupid country. But in actuality, this is the exact opposite of being politically correct. And it is yet another point that leads to the dysfunction of America. Birthright citizenship is about the babies of slaves. It had nothing to do with illegal immigration for people wanting to scam our country from all parts of the world, which they have done for many years. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, first of all, his repeated claim that the US is the only country with birthright citizenship is flat out incorrect, as you can see in this map. There are about 30 other countries that do the same thing, including
TYT conveniently ignores the fact that most of those countries they list have far stricter immigration and citizenship processes than the US. So context matters here.
both of our neighbors. You can see the full list over on the right. Secondly, the 14th Amendment literally could not be any clearer. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So we've established
They cite the 14th Amendment, but they skip over subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That phrase is exactly what legal scholars have debated for years. It's not as clear as they want you to believe.
that Trump is flat out wrong. But now let's go back to the Supreme Court case, because that's not nearly as clear as Trump's BS arguments against the merits of birthright citizenship. Before we hear from the justices, here's CBS's legal expert explaining what this case, stemming from Trump's executive order, is really about. Take a look.
Many people sued. Federal judges issued these things called nationwide injunctions, meaning that the executive order can't go into effect, not just with respect to the parties who sued, but with respect to everybody nationwide. And so the question that the court is struggling with is, do federal judges have the power to do that? Do they have the power to say, this executive order, stop it, halt it, not just for the people who walked into my courtroom and asked me, but with respect to everybody, it cannot be implemented anywhere.
So as we wait for the court's decision, we can only make inferences based on some of the lines of questioning from the justices. And so far, from what we can tell, some of the conservative justices seem open to siding with the Trump administration. According to CNN, several conservative justices signaled deep reservations with the ability of lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions, but at the same time seem to be searching for other ways people could, in the short term, stop a policy that would upend more than a century of understanding about American citizenship. The liberals, however, pressed Solicitor General D. John Sauer on what taking away power from lower courts would mean. Justice Sotomayor gave Sauer a hypothetical about what could happen with a different president in charge. Take a look.
This is a slippery slope argument about gun confiscation, and it's laughable. One is a national security issue regarding citizenship law, and the other is a direct violation of the Second Amendment.
You claim that there is absolutely no constitutional way to stop, put this aside, to stop a president from an unconstitutional act, a clearly, indisputably unconstitutional act. So when a new president orders that because there's so much gun violence going on in the country, and he comes in and he says, I have the right to take away the guns from everyone, then people, and he sends out the military to seize everyone's guns. We and the courts have to sit back and wait until every named plaintiff or every plaintiff whose gun is taken comes into court. Taking every gun from every citizen. We couldn't stop that.
I disagree with that.
Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson summarized the Trump team's argument as "catch me if you can." Take a look.
Every policy has enforcement delays. TYT acting like this is unique to Trump is dishonest. Remember Obama's DACA? Same thing. Executive actions tied up in courts for years.
The real concern, I think, is that your argument seems to turn our justice system, in my view at least, into a catch-me-if-you-can kind of regime from the standpoint of the executive, where everybody has to have a lawyer and file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating people's rights. Justice Kagan says, let's assume for the purpose of this that you're wrong about the merits, that the government is not allowed to do this under the Constitution, and yet it seems to me that your argument says we get to keep on doing it until everyone who is potentially harmed by it figures out how to file a lawsuit, hire a lawyer, etc. And I don't understand how that is remotely consistent with the rule of law.
And finally, although the merits of the birthright citizenship case are not technically in question here, Justice Amy Coney Barrett repeatedly pressed Sauer about why the government is avoiding the merits.
Of course it's novel. That's what legal challenges are for. Novelty isn't inherently bad.
He made a damning admission. Take a look.
This is also a follow-up to some of the questions that others have asked you about the merits of the order not being before us. Did I understand your answer to be because you think percolation is really important for this one?
Yes, but also more fundamentally, it illustrates that the very problem with these nationwide injunctions is they force this rushed, fast and furious decisions on the merits. So I think it'd be very inappropriate in this case to come to a stay application saying, please give us a rushed, decision on the merits of something that's very complex.
But the government's done that in other cases too, right?
Well, those cases would be different. In this case, the example I gave earlier, we think it's very clear cut on the merits. This one is, we concede a novel and sensitive
So this one
question.
isn't clear cut on the merits?
This one, in this case, we want the court to address the remedial issue.
We are not a traditional cafe. We're completely unconventional. And my Wix website really has to capture the same magic.
One could say, in other words, they can't defend it because they know it's so blatantly unconstitutional. But Cenk, what do you think the court will decide here? Do you think we should read into Justice Coney Barrett's line of questioning?
Okay, so I have so many things to say about all the different justices in their line of questioning because Amy Coney Barrett had the best questions, to be honest. That was one of them, and then I'm going to get back to a second one that was even more critical in a minute. But so in that question right there, she's getting at, okay, the birthright citizenship issue. Once we get past these issues of, hey, can lower courts do nationwide injunctions? Should they do class action lawsuits? The process issues, right? What do you think about the merits of birthright citizenship? And he just flat out admits, yeah, that was tough on the merits. But that's actually what you guys are going for.
This is TYT's usual trick. Make you think process arguments are meaningless, when in reality they're about restoring constitutional checks and balances. And with that being said, we're going to end today's video here. Make sure you like and subscribe, leave your comments down below, and don't forget to check out the next video here on the end screen. We will catch you next time.